morning. We're going to get started. Thank you. Everybody here. All right. Let's all rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. John, why don't you start us off?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can ask the members of the council present to identify themselves, starting with my right.
Right, Jean Garant, board member.
John Corrado.
Jim Morgan.
Adam Ritz.
Harris Papadopoulos.
Diana Weir.
Sherry Sussman.
Right. Kevin Law, I'll acknowledge a quorum present. Take a motion to approve the minutes of October 9th, 2012. Motion by Jim, seconded by Diana. Any questions, comments on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved from October 9th, 2012. Chair's report. I'll be brief. Since we last met, obviously the biggest thing that's gone on and impacted our university, our island, our region, our state is Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy, and really devastating impacts in so many ways. But what's been really neat is, with my various hats on, is to see the island pull together in so many different ways to recover and then hopefully rebuild. I'm sure Sam's will talk about some things, but I got an email of all the incredible things that Stony Brook was doing in the university. It felt great to be part of this institution. And I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I've been involved with, helping both our county executives out, serving on Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano's Business Recovery Task Force, working with the governor. I've been invited to participate in this Empire State Relief Fund, which the governor asked Stony Brook's benefactor Jim Simons to chair. Jim asked me to help on the Long Island front, and so did a big fundraising effort to help meet the gap for people who have suffered damages to both their homes and businesses where insurance and FEMA and homeowners won't cover the whole nut. So it's to help meet the gap, and so something neat to be a part of. Something that Jim Morgan and I have been involved with, put together the LIA and some other regional organizations on the island, looking at our infrastructure needs for our region in terms of what we can do to strengthen our region, to protect our region from future natural disasters. And we're actually going to be making some recommendations. We're going to funnel them through the Governor's Regional Economic Development Council that Sam and I sit on. And as our governor and our federal delegation continue to lobby for federal aid, so we can put a little bit more specifics on what the actual infrastructure needs are for our island. And so looking forward to doing that. And one of the things we'll be talking about is the need for strengthening our grid, our electrical grid, and things that Stony Brook University and Brookhaven National Lab are involved with our Smart Grid 3 initiative and things going on over across the street at the Advanced Energy Research Center. I certainly see opportunities and a role for Stony Brook as we take steps to strengthen our infrastructure in the future. So we'll need to be part of that as well. One thing, Sam, as we look at end of the year and going forward to 2013, we begin to look at our priorities for the following year. Be interested in hearing from you if there is any legislative priorities of Stony Brook. We had FIA 2 years ago, we had 2020, soon 2020, and is there any pet, or important pieces of legislation that you're looking at next year that you'd like to get the council support on? And that is pretty much it for my report. Anybody have any comments or questions? Acknowledge Trustee Frank Trotta joined the meeting.
Excuse me for being late. Traffic was a little not so good on the South Shore.
Okay, and Trustee Council member. So hearing no questions, I'm going to hand it over to Sam for the President's report. Sam?
Thank you very much, Kevin, and good morning, everyone. I want to refer you to my report, which you should have. Is that correct? You have it in front of you. So I want to begin with the number one on there, which is the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS, elected new fellows. This is one of the highest distinctions that individuals can reach in the area of scientific research. And there were 9 people selected from Stony Brook University. That's the most we've ever had, the most faculty we've ever had. And they're all listed here. You can see their names there, and they're fantastic. And I'm just going to mention one of them, who's our provost, Dennis Asanas. It really brings tremendous distinction to the university. I think it brings now to 42 the number of AAAS members we have, which is significant. And some of them are new recruits, some of the people who won the award are new recruits, which means I think we are attracting great talent to the university. I'm really pleased with this. And another example of one of Stony Brook's greatest strengths, which is our fantastic faculty. Speaking of faculty, we've talked a lot about, because of SUNY 2020, we were going to have the ability to hire new faculty. And this is really a cornerstone of what we want to do. And we plan to add 250 new faculty over the next 5 years. But one of the things we've always talked about is the need to be strategic in this hiring. We don't want to just hire willy-nilly. We really want to make sure that the hires we have a positive impact. I think that's very important. So one of the ways we decided to approach this is really led by Dennis, was to set up a cluster hire initiative where faculty were actually asked to propose ideas for cluster hires. And when we talk about cluster hires, we mean you don't hire one faculty member, you may hire 4 or 5 in a particular area. They may not all be in the same department, but they're focused in a particular area of research and scholarship, which allows you to really leverage effects. So Dennis, do you want to just briefly talk about the cluster hire proposal?
Yes. So this is an effort which has really engaged the whole campus, and in fact also members from the east side of the campus and Brookhaven National Lab, in a concept that is in many ways grassroots led. So we asked the faculty to come up with concepts, and there were a lot of those concepts. Some 100 concepts is what we started with, and each one proposed anywhere from 5 to 20 hires in that area. And then we actually set up committees at different levels. The deans had to look at it, and then the proposals that were stronger were actually submitted to the provost office. So I ended up having something on the order of 40 proposals. And at that point, I appointed a panel of our distinguished faculty, members of the academy, distinguished professors in SUNY, who spent basically 2 months, actually 3 at the end of the day, in the summer, to read through all those proposals very carefully and essentially triage them in rounds. So the first time they went from 40 to 20, I told them the job is great, but now they need to take it down to 10, and of those 10, I will be able to fund 5. So you can imagine how very competitive it was. The great news is that at the end, the concepts that actually came up were very, very fantastic. And so both Sam and I said, yes, we don't want to reverse anything. We could have picked any of the 10 they proposed, but we said the top 5 that you came up with are really the ones that make tremendous sense. And so one was coastal zone systems and engineering. And again, given where we are right now, you can imagine how timely it was, but believe me, we had predicted that long before. And the other one was smart grid and smart energy, which again made tremendous sense based on the needs in Long Island. There were others which actually engaged both sides of the campus. So for example, the biomolecular imaging starts actually on the west side of the campus, where the chemists and biochemists formulate compounds and isotopes that actually can be imaged in the PET MRI machines and other imaging technologies that we have, also in conjunction with hopefully Brookhaven National Labs. And then the other one actually addresses a critical need. You all know about the $1 billion investment in the National Synchrotron 2 imaging technologies, again, the world's brightest light source. So you'd like to have at Stony Brook the intellect that will work together with Brookhaven National Lab to use that technology. So we have one on the Joint Photon Science Institute. And the last one is behavioral political economy. We're especially pleased with this because it can rejuvenate three of our great departments in the past, which we want to make them great again. So economics, political science, and the College of Business. So that's what we have. And now we are actually searching for the next set of clusters. So we called for round 2. Today we have at 3 o'clock at the Alumni Center, if any of you are interested. From 3 to 5, a session with the panel that reviewed the proposal last year and any interested parties to apply again, to learn what's important and apply. And so again, we're going to go through all these cycles, and we hope to have some great concepts by next year. That's it.
So let me talk a little bit about Hurricane Sandy, as Kevin mentioned. There was one tragedy at the university associated with Hurricane Sandy, and that's on the night of the hurricane. Some of our students left the campus and unfortunately were involved in an automobile accident when they left the campus. And one of our students, someone who actually worked in my office, was killed in that accident. Another was seriously injured. And that was the terrible tragedy of Hurricane Sandy for Stony Brook. If one looks at the campus as a whole, so putting that terrible thing aside for a second, we actually did very well. We had continuous power at the campus, except for 37 minutes, as Barbara always likes to say. Thank you. Thumbs up. That's because we have a cogeneration plant, so we actually have a plant on campus that generates power for us. So we were removed from the grid, so we had power during the entire time. I've had students say that Stony Brook, one student told me that Stony Brook was a fortress of safety and security during the storm. And I think that again speaks not only, of course, to the fact that we maintain power and safety on the campus, but also the very dedicated people who were there. So the people who run the residence halls were there. People forget, of course, that classes were canceled during that week by order of the governor, essentially. But we had 7,000 students on the campus. So the challenge then became to keep them safe. They had to be fed, of course, they had to be kept safe, and then as Wednesday rolled around, they had to be entertained as well. So we did, because there are no classes, so we had the rec center, this beautiful new facility which you're seeing today, opened. We specially opened it on Wednesday. That was important. We showed movies. Peter Bajan and his team, I think, our Vice President for Student Affairs, did a great job of really coordinating with this. I think the university was really well prepared for the storm, so Barbara Chernow led our response, but we had our vendors here on campus. So in other words, the people who clear trees for us, the people who help repair things were on our campus. We insisted that those vendors be on our campus, so when the disaster hit, we didn't have to pull them in from outside and compete with other individuals. They were there on our campus ready to go, and I think that made a great difference in our ability to respond. We had a few glitches, which we're going to learn from. One is our internet went out, and again, for the students, that's a pretty vital thing. We thought we had a redundant system. We had 2 different vendors providing for us, and they had different ways, supposedly, that they would be protected from what was happening, but in the end, that failed. So that was a lesson for us, and so we're going to look for even more redundancy in the future because we know how important it is for our students, particularly as to stay in touch. We learned a lot about our communications. We found that things like text messages turned out to be a very powerful way to get communication out because many people, the cell phone signals may have been down, but text still went through. So we're really encouraging now all of our students and faculty to get on our text messaging system. Turns out we have a very low faculty penetration on that system. It's very important because it's a way we can tell you whether you had to come to work that day or not, and there were important messages going out. And of course, if there was an emergency on campus, let's say something like that happened in Virginia Tech, for example, we actually had a shooter on campus, that text messaging is a very powerful way to let people know what an issue is. So right now, I think the number was 7% or something, is that right, of our faculty are signed up for text messaging. It's a very low percentage, and we're going to push really hard to get everyone into that service. But it's something, again, we learned from the hurricane. So there's a number of other things that we've done. In the and I should mention the hospital's response. So Stony Brook University Hospital was open, of course, during this time. head power, took some patients from other hospitals where there was threats of flooding, and in addition, did something special, which was there were families and patients that couldn't go home or didn't want to go home during the hurricane, and they made accommodations for literally hundreds of individuals to stay within the hospital in a safe harbor during that time. The Long Island Veterans Home, again, took individuals. How many, Fred?
18 evacuees.
18 evacuees came to the Long Island Veterans Hospital, something that Fred has done over and over again when there's need. I think we really worked to step to the plate for that. But again, I think there's some lessons we learned about coordinating with other hospitals, and Ruben Pasternak, our new CEO for the hospital, is working to gather the leaders of hospitals together to find a way to provide maybe more coordination in this kind of emergency, so we can make sure that nothing happens like happened at NYU, where you had these widespread evacuations, of course, because of power losses. Again, we didn't experience anything like that. And then in the aftermath, we made our dormitories in our Southampton campus available for utility workers. We're in negotiations. There are other people using it as well. FEMA is out there too. So we're making those dorms available essentially for people who need that space as part of the recovery. So I think overall we did very well. We received a commendation publicly from Chancellor Zinfer for our response to the storm, I think because of the great performance. And I have thanked everyone engaged on my team. I think they did a fantastic job. Tomorrow morning, I'm thanking some special people who were nominated by their vice presidents, and a special breakfast we're having for those who went above and beyond the call of duty. But I would say as an institution, I think everyone did well. And particularly, again, I compliment the students as well, who behaved with extraordinary maturity on campus during this time. So I think all in all,
Right.
so, thanks.
Very nice to hear.
Sam, before you go up the subject,
Yeah.
how are students going to make up the days that they miss?
So Dennis, do you want to talk about that?
So basically, there are two things that we have done. One is we have filed with SUNY a petition for essentially a waiver of contact hours, so that this week essentially of classes will be made could be waived. But in our proposal, we've said like we're going to make equivalent opportunities for the instructors and the students to essentially learn that material. And so we did. So we had to, in some cases, schedule additional sessions, sometimes in the evenings, sometimes the weekends. In some of the lab classes, what we did is we made use of, let's say, a week that we built typically within the semester if something goes wrong with an experiment. Mm-hmm. Well, here it was act of God, so something went really wrong. We didn't have electricity for a week, and in some cases people couldn't come to class. And in other cases, we used online educational materials and approaches so people could asynchronously pick up the material. So I think through the combination, it has worked. But actually, it may be better to hear from our students, Anna and Arilos, how you feel it worked. And we did a best faith effort. There's always challenges.
After you.
Well, I think ultimately for the students, we did miss out on some days of classes, and it was hard coming back the first few weeks because teachers and professors, they wanted to teach material, and then we had tests that piled up, and it was hard. But I think students were able to pull together overall and find a best fit. Ultimately to manage their schedules with classes and extracurriculars. Ultimately I think that given the time, I don't think that students would want to stay here longer than they have to because we're students, so they kind of want to just go home. But
Nothing personal.
Nothing personal.
And we're very supportive.
But ultimately, I think during that hard time, students were able to pull together and really they worked through their courses and they did a phenomenal job with that.
And I'll echo what Anna said. Like I haven't heard any complaints about the response from the school. It was really solid, and the effort to make up for lost time while actually not appending time at the end of the semester is very much appreciated. So just would like to commend you on the response of the university as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add that we did issue a directive before we came back, after the break, that there should be no exams for the first 2 days. And I would say 99% of the faculty greatly respected that. So there was still the 1%. At the end, to give that exams if they had the extra time to prepare.
There's always that 1%. We have commencement, our winter commencement coming up on December 21st. We're actually going to do it twice this year because we're doing it in Pritchard Gymnasium because the arena is closed. So we will do, as I say, do the ceremony twice. The first ceremony we begin at 10 a.m. and that'll be for graduates in the College of Arts and Sciences. And the second ceremony will begin at 2 p.m. and will include graduates from all other schools and colleges. Again, members of the University Council, the Stony Brook Council are always welcome to come. I don't think you have to go to both ceremonies, honestly. That's up to you. I'm going to go to both.
Good choice.
But it may be the speech may be very similar. So we look forward to that. It's always a fantastic time, and we'll have more than 2,000 degrees will be awarded at that ceremony. I wanted to call your attention to the fact that one of the things we've been working very hard on is to create endowed professorships. So these are professorships essentially that have an endowment associated with it. A donor gives money, essentially, that money goes into our endowment, it generates income that then goes to support the professor. And they can use that money often to support their laboratory, they can use it to support travel, any type of scholarship they want. It's a very powerful tool to recruit faculty as well as retain faculty. There's a great honor associated with being an endowed professor or endowed chair. And so we had an inaugural investiture ceremony for the Simons Chair of Medicine as part of the gift that Jim and Marilyn Simons and the Simons Foundation gave to Stony Brook University. Some of that money went to create some endowed professorships. And Vince Yang, who's chair of the Department of Medicine, became the first Simons Chair of Medicine. We had a great ceremony in academic regalia. Ken presided, but it was really a fantastic ceremony. Jim Simons was there for it. And again, I think it's something we're going to continue to do. So our goal originally has been to create 40 endowed professorships. We've made great progress towards that goal. I've been encouraged to increase it to 100 endowed professorships. And that may take a little longer, but we'll see how that goes. But it's very exciting. Again, all of you are invited to come to any of those ceremonies. I wanted to say we had our distinguished alumni recognized at our annual event back November 13th. Again, we have some Stony Brook Distinguished Alumni Award winners in the room with us. It's the highest award we give to our alumni, and we're very proud of them. We also inaugurated something new for the first time, and that was what we call a Distinguished Service Award. So these are individuals who aren't actually alumni of Stony Brook University, but they might as well be for their dedication and the way in which they've helped the university. So Robert and Lisa Laurie were our inaugural Distinguished Service Award winners for their philanthropy and generous support of the university. And it was a really fun evening. Craig Allen, who some of you may know, the CBS 880 radio meteorologist and a former Stony Brook Distinguished Alumni, is the MC, and it's actually a good evening, so again, you're invited to that. Not far from here is the umbilic torus. This is a fantastic work of art that was given to Stony Brook from the Simons Foundation, Jim and Marilyn Simons. It was by the mathematician sculptor Helaman Ferguson. He's both. He's a mathematician who became a sculptor, but he uses mathematical shapes essentially to inform his artistic output. And he built this as a 24-foot high, 10-ton bronze magnum opus that sits on, I can't remember how many ton granite.
I think 15.
More than that.
25.
Okay. There's not a lot of tons of granite. A lot of tons of granite. And it's really a fantastic piece. I really encourage you. It's located between our quad and the physics and math buildings, and I really encourage you to go take a look at it. It's really a spectacular sculpture. And finally, in athletics, everyone's been following again. We had tremendous success with our football team. We made it into the NCAA FCS playoffs. We won our first game, beat Villanova here at home in an exciting game. We traveled to Montana State and again lost a very tough game, 16-10, but the team acquitted itself incredibly well. It was another fantastic season for Chuck Priori, who really is one of the, I think, outstanding football coaches in the country. And Chuck shared the AFCA Regional Coach of the Year honors, which is fantastic, and again, shows appreciation for everyone for his talents. And then Miguel Maisonet has been named a finalist for the Walter Payton Award. He was the first one from Stony Brook ever nominated for this award. And there's two other outstanding people, and December 17th, there'll be an FCS Awards banquet in Philadelphia, and we'll find out whether Miguel is popular or not. But regardless, he had a fantastic season and really helped lead this team. So I think I'll stop there, except, oh yeah, legislative priorities. So I would say there's two things that we care about a lot, and both are related to capital. One of the challenges that we face right now is the state's ceiling on debt is causing us to run up against problems in terms of capital projects, and it's particularly true for the hospital as well as for our ability to build dorms through the dormitory authority. And the kind of debt required for those, or the debt we would take on for those things, is really different than the debt that's taken on for other things, because in each of those cases, we easily have revenue sources that can repay any borrowing. So in other words, the state taking on debt for this is much more of a sure thing than it is other things that we borrow money on. I realize these are not technical terms, but you're getting my level of understanding of this. So put simply, when the hospital borrows, the hospital has significant revenues it can use to pay back these loans, and it makes sense. So what we are proposing is that the hospitals, the SUNY hospitals, be removed from the state's component of the debt. So in other words, this debt would be looked at separately from the state's debt ceiling. They still would be able to borrow, but that debt would be removed from the state's debt ceiling. They would be able to pay back. And the same with our dormitories, same thing. Again, because students pay rent essentially through the board, we can pay back the interest on these and pay the principals on this borrowing as well through the revenues we generate through student rentals. So we would also like to see those dormitories carved out essentially from the state's debt ceiling level. This is really important for us. One is we have some projects that are really critical for the hospital. Some of them involve parking and other things that are really vital, where we think we can generate the revenue, the hospital can generate the revenue, and we can't build it right now because the state is not giving us the capital authority to do it. And on the dormitory side, we have a significant project we'd like to build, but right now we only have enough capital to build half of the project. And if we do it in 2 phases, everybody knows with construction, if you do it in 2 phases, it's going to cost us significantly more. What's the number, Peter or Barbara? How much more?
11 million more.
About 11 million more if we have to build it in phases. And those are real dollars. So if we had the opportunity to borrow everything we need at once for that, then we would save, the university $11 million and our students and everyone else. So that, I think, is probably our highest priority, would be to get those things done. I don't know, Elaine, if you can comment on, want to comment on either of those.
Yeah, that's going to be a SUNY-wide initiative too. So we'll be joining together with the other SUNY schools to advocate for that legislation.
Great.
Just a question. Sam, educate me for a second.
Yeah.
Appropriate place for it. What is the role of DASNY, Dormitory Authority, State of New York, its bonding authority for our dorms here?
Yeah, Barbara, do you want to?
Well, the DASNY sells the bonds for our dormitories. So the other capital projects that Sam talked about is not funded by DASNY.
Okay, but DASNY has the same state cap?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's free to ask.
Yeah, the important thing with the residence halls is that the residence halls are completely supported by student rentals. So you move a project that would cost about $145,000 a bed to $160,000 a bed by split it into parts.
Yeah, sure.
And so what you're doing is loading $11.25 million on the back of students over the next.
Yeah, I know in industrial development agencies, they can transfer their bond limits. For example, we recently had a case, Kevin, with the Regional Economic Development Council, where ISLIF got the bonding authority from some other IDA. Can that go on?
We've talked about that. So I've had conversations with them and with Empire State as well. And so far, Lyle is not here, Lyle Gomes is not here, but I've asked Lyle to continue to pursue, are there other ways in which we might try and obtain that kind of debt capacity?
Other entities that are nowhere near their cap, if they could
Yeah.
transfer some.
Exactly.
room to
Right.
certain-
Exactly.
Right, and that's what we did in Iceland.
Yeah. I think the numbers, I think what we found was, I think our numbers are big, so that
Exactly.
No one will have-
Exactly.
to build this dorm is how much again, Peter?
Will be about 145 million.
About 145 million, so that tends
So
to
nobody's gonna
swamp
have
that.
that.
No one has that kind of capacity.
Got
So
it.
that's the challenge.
And-
But Lyle is in the process of doing that, but that is exactly
Yeah,
what we've done.
yeah.
Interesting. Sam, thanks for the good report. Let the record reflect that the Honorable Coach Lou Howard has joined us. Lou, good to see you again.
Good morning, Coach.
Any other questions for Sam? Frank?
How realistic is passage of this with the legislature these days?
Yeah.
It's looking more positive
Good.
than it has been.
Oh.
We're moving in the right direction.
So
Okay.
it's not as bad as it was.
That's right. But no guarantees.
Sam, we had a LIA board meeting the other day, and we spent a lot of time talking about the fiscal cliff and impacts to Long Island if a resolution isn't achieved. And Dr. Bruce Stillman talked about, from Cold Spring Harbor, talked about how devastating the sequestering impacts would have on Long Island. I'm just wondering, are there any details of what the impacts of falling off the cliff, to the extent that does happen, will have at Stony Brook?
Well, it could be extremely negative, but actually, I actually had an op-ed in Newsday. I don't know, when did it appear? It was
3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago, that actually talked about this issue and how it would affect research universities in Stony Brook in particular. So you're certainly a fastball here. I think it, I think I'll echo what Bruce said in terms of research, first of all, that Stony Brook is very much dependent upon the National Institutes of Health, the National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, particularly because our connection to the Brookhaven National Laboratory. So this is a tremendous threat to us if those dollars are reduced, which I think they would be under any sequestration model. I served on the council that advises the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease. So that's part of the National Institutes of Health that funds all the research in infectious diseases, HIV, all those things. It's the second largest institute, second only to the National Cancer Institute. And I just got off their board, but when I was there, they were talking very significant reductions if this happened in the vicinity of 15%, 15 to 20% reduction in their ability to pay out. And so if you think about that, that's 1 in 7 wouldn't be funded. That's reductions to existing grant holders, potentially in their funding as well. So this would be devastating. The second thing, obviously, that concerns us tremendously is the Pell program. So as we've talked about many times, we have a very high proportion of Pell Grant eligible students at Stony Brook. At least 6,200 of our students are receiving Pell Grants. And so any cuts to that program, which again, would occur, could be very damaging essentially for our students. And we already have unmet need. There's already need we don't need on our campus for students again. So if Pell were to be cut, that would be very damaging as well. So those are the two things I think that I look at that I think pose the biggest threat in this. And again, we're following it with great interest. We've communicated with our representatives. The AAU, of which Stony Brook is a member, has sent strong messages essentially to Congress about the dangers that this poses for us. In a time, I don't need to tell this group this, but at a time when our economy seems to be moving at least somewhat in the right direction, and certainly Stony Brook is certainly moving in the right direction, this would be a very dangerous bump in the road if this were to happen. So we certainly hope that we avoid this process.
Good. Any other questions for Sam?
Just one last
Yeah.
question on the hospital at Southampton campus. How is that progressing?
I'll talk about that in a moment.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Sam, in your report, you made me think of a couple of things. Susan, maybe at the February meeting, we could have Coach Priori and Masonette in to recognize the great year that they had. We always have fun meeting those folks, and certainly they had a phenomenal year. It would be good to do that. Two, what I also meant to, I forgot to mention again, because I know I want to do it at the end of this meeing, for those who are interested, taking a tour of this new beautiful facility that we're in, that we had the grand opening just a month or two ago. There'll be somebody to take us on a quick tour of this facility, so I'm looking forward to that. Something else I forgot to mention, next week the governor's office told us to put aside the 19th, I think it is, for a presentation to Albany where he's going to announce the Regional Economic Development Council awards that Sam and I sit on, and if we win, there'll be some good news for some of the Stony Brook projects that we have in our plan. So we'll learn that. We're told we'll learn that next Thursday. And then Sam, I had one other question, and I've got a couple of phone calls, emails from people in the community regarding some type of dispute regarding soccer fields at the end of Stony Brook Road. So to the extent any of the other council members have gotten any or might get some, can you just give us a 2-minute, what's the issue there, and what are you guys doing to resolve the issue?
So I'm going to start my chronograph here for 2 minutes. There's a long-standing relationship between Stony Brook University and Three Village Soccer, which dates back to Jack Marburger's presidency, where some fields which were then really unused and undeveloped were basically leased or allowed. Is lease the correct term, Susan? I want to make sure. Permit was allowed to allow them to use those fields. And I want to say that there was never a transfer of ownership or anything else. There was use of the fields was provided. The Three Village Soccer, they made some improvements, turned them into better fields, and developed an outstanding soccer program that serves many families and individuals in this surrounding area as well as outside as well. As I said, that was done a number of years ago, and at the time, actually 25 acres essentially was given to them. As the campus has continued to grow, and we've had more and more students residents on campus, it became clear that our students were underserved essentially in the fields available to them. And the numbers are actually pretty striking. So while Three Village was utilizing 25 acres of our land, our students had about 6.7 acres to utilize, and athletics had 13 acres to utilize. So I think almost anybody from the outside might say there was some disproportion here. And what really brought it to a head was when the students came to me and said, we really need more field space. Our numbers are growing. We have clubs, we have that play that need this, intramurals. We're just not getting served adequately. We're paying tuition, we're paying fees, but we're not getting served adequately. And so they actually organized very well. They came to me with a petition that had 3,200 or something NNO student signatures on it. That is the most signatures I've ever received from students. And I've had a few controversies since I've been here, but that's the most. And their request to me was a very reasonable one, that we needed to find some ways to increase the amount of field space they have. And so we discovered also that it turned out that there were some issues that had arisen where Three Village was actually charging our students to use some of the fields that Three Village was utilizing as well, which kind of added.
Very entrepreneurial on their part.
Very entrepreneurial. I think something that really angered the students, and I think justifiably so. So we entered into negotiations essentially with Three Village to try and find a way that would solve this problem, that would allow us to have more field space for our students, but at the same time respect the fact that we've had this relationship for a number of years and recognize they have made some improvements in our property. So those negotiations continue. I think we're getting very close to a resolution. That resolution essentially, I think, would add new fields for the students, and we would make some improvements to those new fields for the students as well, adding lights, adding a new surface so it could be all-purpose, providing a field for rugby for the first time because the rugby club is very popular and uses the fields. This would help athletics because it would decant some of the use currently. There's some shared things going on between athletics and students. This would decant some of that over, so I think it's positive from that point of view as well. But at the same time, we would also make some improvements and work with Three Village to expand the number of fields they have by going to another location near Stony Brook Road. So they would end up actually without a very significant loss of field space. And so that's the compromise we're working on. I think we're making great progress on it. I hope that this will be solved. Elaine, do you have anything to add? You have been leading, along with Barbara, our work in this area.
So our discussions have been very positive in the past week and a half, and we sent a revised proposal last Friday, which I think, will be positively received on the other end. So we'll just wait and see, but again, we're moving in the right direction on that one.
It's literally moving in the right direction. We're creating 3 fields on the Stony Brook Road on the property, on the other side of the parking lot.
I think the critical thing is just that, you know, first and foremost for me was I really needed to respond to the students. And I think, you know, that, you know, on the other hand, I don't want to give up any of the goodwill that's been established through these fields. On the other hand, the students' request was a completely reasonable one, I think, by any criteria. And I think we need to be addressed.
Well, thanks, Dan, and it's, you know, when you're the CEO, you always have to, you know, try to strike a balance, and he has a fiduciary obligation to the students, as you mentioned, but then he tries to be a good neighbor, and we all, you know, the university always tries to be a good neighbor. So the striking a balance, and because things sometimes get heated when things are in the community, if I would encourage any of the council members, if you get a phone call, or forward them to Elaine, and we don't take individual positions, we work as a collective, you know, board, and just refer the questions to Elaine, all right? Good. Student,
I
yes?
just want to say on behalf of the students, thank you so much for everyone who's helped so much in this effort. We really appreciate it.
Good, very good. And finally, before we get to the rest of the agenda, in your booklets is Sam's State of the University address. I had the pleasure of witnessing his speech live, and it's really, in the short tenure that Sam's been here, during tumultuous times, economically, governmentally, with all the changes and craziness of Albany over the last few years, it's a really amazing what you've accomplished and the path and the vision that you've put forward for the future. So, you know, Sam, on behalf of the council, great job. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with our agenda, we're going to get an update on the MART, the new facility being built across the street. Dr. Ken Kaczynski. Ken?
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Sam. On Thursday or Wednesday of last week, I asked Sam what he wanted me to talk about this morning. And I gave him a menu of 6 things. And he came back and he said, all of them, but make sure it's in 15 minutes. Now, I will speak about all of them. We're going to try to make it in 15 minutes. So because I'm so proud of our medical school and our medical student class, I just wanted to go over a few of the demographics of our School of Medicine. This is the class we just recently admitted, 124 students. Competition for medical school admission at Stony Brook University is intense, over 4,900 applications. We interviewed over 700 applicants. 75% of our class are from the state of New York. Stony Brook, of course, and Cornell are the 2 most common colleges, but it is a very geographically diverse group and diverse in every respect. We have 18% of our students are underrepresented in medicine. We have a diverse range of scholarly activities. 9 of our students already hold advanced degrees like a PhD, and 6 more are in our MD PhD program. These are smart kids. They have a high grade point average. They have amazingly good medical college admission test scores, better than my alma mater, better than Hopkins, Duke, Georgetown, Sinai, etc.
Well, thanks, Ken. What is 18% of our students are underrepresented? What does that stat mean?
Hispanic and black. That's what that means, basically.
Oh.
And American Indian are
So
included.
18% of the 124 are
Correct.
minorities?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, excellent.
A picture, you know, tells 1,000 words. This is at our orientation barbecue. The pink is because we were filming part of the Pink Club video that day. And if any of you saw the Pink Club video, you'll see our students prominently featured in that event. We graduated a class in May. Stony Brook Medicine produced 123 physicians. Virtually everybody who doesn't voluntarily drop out graduates in a timely fashion. 17 of our graduates hold other advanced degrees. Almost everybody, all but 1 student, matched in their area of interest. 1 matched within an hour 40% of our students go into primary care, which is an emphasis for us. We're actually hoping and we're doing some things that will greatly improve that number. And here are where they go for their residencies, Harvard, Yale, Mount Sinai, and of course, most important of all, Stony Brook Medicine. Graduation is probably the best day of the year for me as a dean. We started a new tradition. Well, I don't know that the first year can be called a tradition. Next year we'll call it a venerable tradition. But we now allow the student to choose who's going to put the doctoral hood on them. And I'll tell you, standing up there on the stage, I can't tell who's beaming more, the student who's just graduated or the person who put the hood on the student. We've had some amazing graduation speakers. Peter Agre won the Nobel Prize in 2004 for his discovery of how water moves in and out of cells. Griff Rogers is the head of the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney Disease. And this year, Janet Rowley, who's won the Lasker Award, which is about half of the people who win the Nobel Prize have won the Lasker Award. I wanted to go through just a couple of innovative educational programs that we are pioneering in the School of Medicine. One is a global medicine program, and our students have gone to 20 different countries as part of their broad-based learning experience. We're beginning to focus now. We hope to focus on Madagascar because of the strong ties between Stony Brook University and research institutes in Madagascar. It's very gratifying. Virtually everybody who goes abroad comes back with the phrase life-changing experience on their lips. We've created, again, because of great philanthropy of our friends of Stony Brook University and Stony Brook Medicine, we've created an Academy of Clinical and Educational Scholars to enrich the learning environment in the School of Medicine and in all of Stony Brook Medicine. You can see the goals of the ACEs, as we call it, the Academy of Clinical and Educational Scholars. This is basically a think tank. How do we improve our curriculum? How do we teach the teachers to enhance the educational environment? One of the things that we're about to begin is a Med into Grad program, and this is an innovative thing out of Stony Brook Medicine where we give PhD students a medical experience to inform them about what are the questions, what are the few things we do well in medicine, what are the great number of things we don't do so well in medicine, so that the PhD students, when they graduate, will know the questions to ask in their research. This is the program that I began back in San Diego, and we're going to pick it up here. Let me just give you this sort of testimonial.
Hi, I'm Julia McCall. I'm a third year in the BMS program, and I study adult nerve regeneration and spinal cord injury. Now, one goal of mine in pursuing a PhD within a medical school was to better understand this process between research and clinical application. So a couple of years after I started my thesis lab work, I applied to the HHMI Med into Grad program, and the experience has been nothing less than absolutely inspiring. The quarter was specially designed so that I could have the opportunity to explore spinal cord injury in its multiple forms and dimensions. So to that end, I was able to shadow 12 different neurologists, neuro and orthopedic surgeons, rehab physicians, as well as therapists, and I learned something essential from every one of them. I also realized that the differences between basic research and clinical research are far wider than I could have ever imagined in terms of the communication between the two. So this granted me a really unique opportunity to not only learn a ton, but also to have the chance to actually teach a little. So one example of this came on a day when I observed a peripheral nerve reattachment when the surgeons actually used this device that was supposed to accelerate the wound healing process by influencing a signaling cascade that I was actually very well familiar with from my own research. And so I was asked that same afternoon to give a mini demonstration in front of a small room of surgeons and physicians on how exactly this new technology was working.
So that's the kind of programs that we want to institute here at Stony Brook Medicine. We've had a lot of buy-in from the basic science departments, microbiology, biochemistry, biomedical engineering, and they're very eager for their students, and we're going to pilot this program starting in September. As Sam said, you are nothing if you don't have great people in your institution. And I just wanted to go through some of the people that we've had success in recruiting here to Stony Brook Medicine. After Fred's great transitional leadership as the hospital CEO, we recruited Ruben Pasternak. Ruben's a physician, he's a pediatric anesthesiologist, spent most of his career at Hopkins, led a 900-bed hospital as CEO in Northern Virginia, and now he's our hospital CEO. You heard Sam talk about the investiture of Vince Yang as chair of medicine, as the Simons chair of medicine. Vince received his training at Princeton, Robert Wood Johnson, and Hopkins. He joined the faculty at Hopkins, then moved to Emory to head the GI division. He's now our chair of medicine. Peggy McGovern has been here for about 4 or 5 years, and we've appointed her physician-in-chief of the Stony Brook Children's Hospital. She also has a very, very impressive background. Basil Regas is our NAP chair for pancreatic cancer research, but he's also our vice president for business development and dean for clinical affairs, a new leader in Stony Brook Medicine. Lena Obeid is our new dean for research. Lena has a great background. She trained at Duke University, joined the faculty there, moved to South Carolina, the Medical University of South Carolina. Lena has about 250 papers on her CV, and impressively, she has trained and mentored 20 female physician scientists, and that was very, very attractive for our goals at Stony Brook Medicine. Coming along with Lena from the Medical University of South Carolina is her husband, Yusuf Hanan. Yusuf is the director of our Cancer Center. Yusuf has about 450 papers on his CV. An amazing leader. We've appointed him dean for cancer medicine as well, and he is charged with getting us to become an NCI-designated cancer center in about 5 or 6 years. New chair of neurology, Dennis Choi, MD, PhD from the Harvard MIT program, joined as faculty at Stanford, became chair of neurology at Washington University, has had a number of career milestones, and he's now our new chair of neurology and head of our neurosciences institute. Ramin Parsi, new chair of psychiatry. Ramin is an MD, PhD. We plucked him out of Columbia University. He is expert at understanding PET imaging of the brain, and this will dovetail very nicely with our emphasis on imaging at Stony Brook. Everybody's not from outside. Todd Griffin is our chief medical officer until he became our chair of Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology and Reproductive Medicine. A new dean for faculty affairs. Meenakshi has been charged with really bringing our faculty into scholarship, really bringing our faculty into the kind of career pathways that they want to develop. Lisa Ben Scott, new director of our program in public health. Lisa has, you can see the pedigree that she comes from. She was our faculty member in the School of Health Technology and Management for about 10 years, and she's now leading our program, which has really revitalized our public health program. You may, if you listen to NPR radio, you will hear some ads for new leadership in our Heart Institute. Jim Taylor, probably the best cardiothoracic surgeon on Long Island, possibly New York, or at least we think so. Trained at South Carolina, Cornell, and for the last 20 years has been practicing cardiothoracic surgery at St. Francis Hospital. They were not too pleased that we recruited him and his partner Harold Fernandez from St. Francis to head up our Heart Institute here at Stony Brook. Not too pleased as, I guess, soft pedaling it. I'm sort of persona non grata in the health system. But nevertheless, actually, Harold has an amazing life history. Harold comes from Columbia, not in district of, but country of, as in the Medellin region of Colombia. At age 13, he sort of felt that drug running was probably not in his best life interest. came to the U.S. as an undocumented. He's now a U.S. citizen. Harold then, by age 18, was at Princeton. At age 22, was at Harvard Medical School. 26, was at NYU surgery residency. Did his CT surgery training at NYU. Went into practice with Jim Taylor, and now he's a Stony Brook professor. What about research? Sam was talking about that fiscal cliff. There was actually another cliff of sorts. Remember the Recovery Act back in 2009, 2010. The grant flow from the Recovery Act ended, but nevertheless, Stony Brook Medicine has continued to grow our grant portfolio. We're very proud that we continue to increase our research at Stony Brook. Towards the end of getting to a great research position, we have begun to focus on several topics and developing several tools to help them. And these are 3 of the 4 topics we've chosen to focus on. And I'll just illustrate one for you. Cardiovascular and imaging. This is some work that was done by one of our professors in the departments of radiology and cardiology, Michael Poon. This is what Michael can do with a 320 slice CT scanner looking at the heart. And you can see, and hopefully everybody in this room has coronary arteries that look like that in the middle upper panel. Nice flow of blood into the myocardium. This is what you don't want to see. And that is a very, very ragged, obstructed coronary artery. What Michael can do in real time, if you come into the emergency room with chest pain, we can put you in the 320 slice CT scanner, and within just a couple minutes with a very small radiation dose, much reduced over a standard CT, Michael can send you home with impunity and know that you do not have coronary artery disease. This helps the patient, this helps the hospital, this helps healthcare economics, because in the old days, when you came to the emergency room with chest pain and you didn't know if you had coronary artery disease, you spent a day or 2 or 3 in the hospital, you had additional tests that cost money, had side effects sometimes, not just sometimes. And so with this device, we can really help healthcare, and we've now exported it. Mather Hospital has a CT scanner. They feed the images to Michael in his laboratory, and he gives information back in real time to Mather Hospital, allowing those patients to be discharged. But we're not stopping there. This is the new device that we're going to move our imaging program forward. In mid-summer, there's going to be a big truck from Siemens that's going to back its way up to our cancer center and install this puppy. This is a simultaneous PET MRI scanner. Used to be you have to do these sequentially. You don't get temporal information. You don't get perfect alignment. Now it will align the PET scan with the MRI scan. And these are some of the kind of images that you get. This is a lung cancer in the, on the left side. You don't want to see that, but sometimes you do. Let me skip over this one. Let me tell you just a little bit about clinical medicine, and then I'll close with what is on the agenda, which is an update on the market. We are a very busy hospital. We have almost 600 beds. We see a lot of patients in our hospital. We bring to life a lot of new citizens of Long Island. Our emergency room is clearly the busiest on Long Island. We do a lot of surgeries, we do a lot of labs, and we have a lot of very fine physicians. Recently, and again, so this was from last year, again this year, we were rated as an A in the Leapfrog group, which is a national, it's probably one of the first quality assessment organizations. 3,500 hospitals around the country are assessed. We were voted an A. We're actually the only one of the 6 largest hospitals on Long Island to be given an A by Leapfrog. And I'm not comfortable with this Stony Brook Medicine being the best kept secret on Long Island. And so recently we've gone public. We're running ads in the New York Times. We're on NPR radio. Ads like this. Those aren't really 35,000 real people. And you have ads like this with Jim and Harold. But Stony Brook University Hospital is not enough. We need to build a network of hospitals. This is sort of my view of Long Island healthcare. You have David, us, and Goliath, the big institutions, North Shore, LIJ, etc. We're creating a network of hospitals and a network of physicians, affiliated hospitals, affiliated physicians that are going to be hardwired together with common electronic medical record, and that are going to share best practices, work together with our practices. What is the evidence that this or that is the best way to care for patients, and then distribute it to all of our network? Don't need to know those. We're working with Mather Hospital, we're working with Peconic Bay, and of course, we're working with Southampton Hospital. And this was the Newsday paper. What we've done so far now is we've put together a number of working groups. We hope by Memorial Day to have hammered out a final agreement whereby we will basically operate Southampton Hospital while Southampton Hospital raises funds to build a new hospital on the Stony Brook Southampton campus. And so the first things first, of course, we need to go from our letter of intent, which we signed a couple months ago, to a definitive agreement. 2 phases. First phase is operations. Second phase is building of the new hospital.
Wonderful, thank you.
So that was sort of building of people, building of programs. Now we're building buildings. And there's 2 buildings that we're building simultaneously. We heard about how if you do 2 things at once, you save money. We're building 2 buildings that we estimate we're saving about $30 million by building them simultaneously as opposed to sequentially. The Medicine and Research Translation Building and an expansion of Stony Brook University Hospital. There will be 150 new beds in the new bed tower, but we're actually not going to expand our total bed capacity. All those 2-bedded rooms are now going to be, not all, but 150 of them are going to become 1-bedded rooms, which gives patients more space, it gives us more efficient operation, it gives us more privacy, it's better for healthcare. Imagine if you have a patient in one bed who has an infection and one who doesn't have an infection. So there's a lot of positives to this bed expansion. We're up to working drawings, we're just beginning working drawings. This is what it's going to look like. On the left side is the Medicine and Research Translation Building. On the right side is the bed tower. For geography purposes, this is right where the southwesterly tower sits, that big black, ugly, big black tower sits. It'll go due west towards Nichols Road. It'll stop long short of 150 feet from Nichols Road, a 350-seat auditorium, and then the Medicine and Research Translation Building. So that last architectural rendering was basically looking from the parking garage in this direction. There will be about 100,000 square feet of new basic cancer biology research space that will look considerably better than our current research space looks. There will be this auditorium where we hope would work with the Stoller Center to have performance pieces, the Department of Music, Theater Arts, to have very, very nice culture in addition to educational space. This is going to be used by day for large medical school, dental school, anatomy lectures and the like. But just below this administrative space will be several new classrooms, probably 4 classrooms that will house 40 or will hold the whole class, 9 small classrooms, demonstration labs, expansion of our clinical education program. Some pretty pictures of what the lobby will look like, some pretty pictures of what Children's Hospital lobby will look like. This is going to be the home for Stony Brook Children's Hospital. The rooms are going to be all single-bedded rooms. This is the color scheme for the Children's Hospital. The adult color scheme might not quite be so festive, but you'll see the orange sofa there. That'll be a double sleeper so that parents can stay with the kids. Half of these inpatient rooms will be immediately convertible to intensive care unit rooms, which is going to greatly increase our flexibility at Stony Brook University Hospital.
Are you building those new mountains to the left and right?
Thank you.
Part of a ski slope?
I didn't mention that before.
Part of the Barbara's infrastructure program.
And then finally, you know, I let slip the black ugly towers. Those are actually going to have a facelift, and this is one of those good news, bad news stories. The bad news is we have to replace the glass on those bed towers. The good news is we can change the color, we can change the texture, and we can give the Stony Brook University Hospital bed towers a facelift. And so that's the goal. That's where we are with the network of physicians, network of hospitals, and where we are in building the March building and the bed tower expansion. And we're right on schedule. Actually, we're 2 weeks ahead of schedule on getting all of these things done. We hope to break ground in late summer, early fall, and we hope we will open these 2 new buildings in April of 2016. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very impressive, Ken. Questions for Dr. Chance?
Just parking for that, auditorium. I know that being on a planning board and planning commission is still on the plan. Parking is always an issue, and structured parking is very expensive. Obviously, I'm sure that's probably why you want to raise the cap on those bonds, because that is high. But if you're going to be using that, which I think is great to use that auditorium for other, non-hospital type issues, it brings people there that can see stuff. I think for the community that's major. So it's not only on the West Campus, you have something on the East Campus too. But how about that parking?
So actually, in the evenings, the hospital garage actually, I think, will handle the 150 cars that will come for performance and things like that.
Okay.
But the parking is a real problem.
Yeah.
And we really do need to address it, because this is going to employ hundreds of new individuals who are going to have to come to our East Campus. It's going to bring in more patients. It's going to bring in a lot more traffic. And so parking is a problem. We're planning a surface lot that surrounds the power plant on the East Campus. About 650 new parking spaces will be available that way, but that will not solve the entire need either. And we are going to need to go to a structure. We hope that one of those surface lots will become a 5-level parking garage, but
Yes, that's something that DASNY does. I mean, those parking garages, and since you pay, that would be some kind of offset, but I know that that's...
Yeah, that's a complicated story, because at our current parking rates, it doesn't cover it. No one wants to come here and build us a parking garage.
About 35,000, 40,000 a spot to build.
Right, I think we'll probably do it ourselves. We'll get money from DASNY, but we wouldn't want them to go.
Yeah, okay. That would be better, because you could control your own destiny with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Other question?
Yes, Dr. Kushansky, I hate to ask this question, but does the dental school have a little nest somewhere in there? Or because they've always aspired to come to the main campus, as you know?
Right. So the dental school does not have a nest in here. What the larger capital investment plan for Stony Brook University has in it is a devoted building for the School of Dental Medicine, just north of the current platform for the hospital and the health sciences building.
So it's in its original location, which was predicted before, but how far in the future do you see this building?
Well, that depends on the health of the state of New York. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, there was a major planning effort, and there was a timeline marched out for 2013 through 2023. And in there, I think it was about the middle of that. Barbara, you might remember.
Right. 2018, 2019.
2018, 2019 is when the building that will house the dental medicine, the School of Dental Medicine, would become a reality. But that depends, of course, on realizing that capital plan that was planned for about a year and a half ago.
I just wanted to reiterate that CHS is still bleeding from the loss of their 2 surgical heart surgeons. But
good to hear.
Thank you, but not good to hear. You're such great leaders, and I see you as an anchor teaching all and bringing this coalition together.
And in fact, that's what attracted Jim and Harold to come here.
And we're aware of that, and we're so grateful that they've chosen to stay, at least locally, so we can still brag about them. And also, thank you to the new CEO is out there really communicating with the rest of the hospital systems, as they need to have that too. Absolutely. So congratulations, this is beautiful growth. We're really proud to be part of it.
Other questions?
Any other questions for Ken? Ken, thanks, very impressive. It's exciting to see what you're doing with the bricks and mortar, but equally or more excited to see what you're doing with the people and the resources and the staff. And I don't know if we did, I know Sam did it, in other ways. I don't know if we did it last time at the meeting, but as Ken was building this team and Sam finding Ruben to be the new leader of the hospital, Fred Scanga filled in and pinched hit again, and he did a Okay, now we're going to get an update on the hotel from Barbara Turner.
Thank you. So I hope that most of you saw the hotel as you came in today. I think it looks pretty beautiful, and I'm going to show you why. So the hotel is 77% complete. It's located right here. And as you can see, we faced it, so it's facing the Humanities Building. And that's not an accident because we wanted it to look similar to the Humanities Building. The goal here is that it wouldn't look like a typical Hilton Garden Inn. So the bricks are similar, and the sizing is similar, and it is going to be open this February. It's on, as you all remember, the 11-acre parcel that we had at ground lease for some time. It takes up less than a third. It's 5 stories and 135 rooms, and I believe it'll be very successful. So a few months after it opens, I think we'll be talking about maybe doing an addition, and that we built it in a way that we could add another 64 rooms.
Is this a location for our next meeting, Susan?
Yes, I've been in touch with them.
Yay.
Well, let's give it a
Little
shot.
close for you before.
Okay, so.
Well, what you plan on, then if it's not ready for us at backup, we'll just use Sam's, conference room.
So here's some in-progress construction photos. Just recently, we put up the new signage. And I hope you can see it from here, let's start from here. But I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful. It is, of course, LED certified. It'll be LED silver. It has a business center, meeting space, fitness center, pool and spa. Maybe Kevin, after a meeting, we can. There's a library reading room. Very important, we're going to have courtesy van transportation, so we'll be taking people to the hospital if they want to go there. We're also working on a path to the campus that if people wanted to walk from the hotel to the hospital, it'll be a better and prettier path for them. So this is the first floor plan, and it's, if you were to enter the front door, this is the desk where you register. Over here is where we'll have the pool party. The restaurant is here, and there's a little breakfast nook, and this is the dining room. The meeting rooms are here. I'll show you a picture of the meeting rooms in a little while, but Sam and I decided to name this very large meeting room divides into 3. So we've named each room after the previous presidents. So there's a Toll Marburger and meeting room. So these are some of the photos of what you'll see when you have your meeting there. The media nook is actually part of, excuse me, the library. The guest rooms. I'm very excited about this. We will be selling lots of Stony Brook material. Elaine is very excited because we're picking it out together. So there will be what we call the niche. So close to the registration desk, you'll be able to get some beverages and you'll be able to get your Stony Brook gear. We've been very busy with some pre-opening activities. Diana Hannon and I have worked with lots of departments, the vet zone, the hospital, in getting ready for the hotel to open. We've had luncheons where we've shared what the hotel will look like, and we've met with people to find out what their needs are. And as I said, Elaine and FSA are working on branded merchandise that we'll sell there.
So when people come to our games,
that's right.
They're going to be able to stay there now. That's good.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So remember that the hotel, as I said, is 135 rooms, but we're pairing it with the ability to use the Wang Center as a conference facility. So just to remind you of what the Wang offers, there's a theater of 239 seats, lecture halls, chapel, meeting rooms. Jasmine is a restaurant. We also have a catering kitchen in the lower level of Wang, so other vendors can make meals there and have catered events there. And Diana is working on a conferences and events website. So you can go to this website in about a month or two when it's up and look at the things that are happening on campus and click to this site and you'll be able to click to the hotel. And these are the meeting rooms I talked about earlier that divide into 3, and there's a boardroom right across the way.
Good.
Excellent.
And that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, I just have, for my own recollection, I forget. Stony Brook owns the hotel, university, or did we create some, is it part of the foundation or something? I'm just curious about the legal, we have a private developer, it's
Yeah.
Stony Brook land, private
Correct.
developer built it or is building it, and then once it's built, we
Stony
the
Brook
owner, we got a
Foundation.
private operator?
We have Crescent as the building operator, the hotel operator, and Stony Brook Realty has a 3% interest in the hotel. We also get paid over $100,000 a year in a lease, which grows every year by 3%.
But do we, does the university sort of have first dibs on things?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
for an event?
We have agreements with them on first dibs. We have agreements with them on paying less than the best available rate. We have a very good deal with them.
But other than that, then the Hilton is the chain that will operate it, and they will be able to market it to anybody else in the business community on Long Island who needs it as a place?
That's correct, and they're already doing so. And we actually have 18 events already booked.
Wow.
Bob, give us an example of 1 or 2 of those.
Simon's Center has lots of events already booked. Did you?
Philosophy.
Philosophy has some, engineering has many.
So what percent would it be? 90% university affiliated type?
I think when we have athletic games, graduation will probably be 100%.
Yeah.
There may be times during the year where there'll be people from the community using it.
I think the hope is that this is going to really expand our conference numbers. I think we've talked about that before, that because there's now a facility on campus, we think it's going to make it much easier for faculty to offer to host conferences. So we have the lawn, as we talked about, that has a great large auditorium. The hotel itself will have 300, can hold up to 300 people, right, in the conference room?
Yes.
And when you put the 3 together into one. So I think it's really going to be very attractive, I think. So that's going to be, I think we're going to see an increase in business, which I anticipate is going to help all of the hotels in this region, because I think we're just going to increase the number of conferences we have. We're going to have more people coming to Stony Brook as a destination. And the same for events in the summer and so on. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. And then as we talked about, we're building this incredibly new children's hospital. I think, again, while there'll be accommodations for parents, there'll also be opportunities for parents and relatives of any individual in the hospital to stay at the hotel as well. So I anticipate that'll be a component of the business as well. Visiting teams coming for athletics. There's a lot of things one can think of where utilization, I think, of the hotel is. But again, my goal is and hope is that this is going to expand business for everybody.
The developer has been meeting with Stoller and Athletics, as Sam said, and really drumming up a lot of business.
Yeah, but what Sam said, what's the possibility of Stony Brook really acquiring the hotel itself?
I'm sorry?
What is the possibility that the university would actually acquire the hotel?
I think it's early to speculate on that. But as I said, we have a 3% interest in the hotel.
Because
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Sam just said.
Well, I think the benefit essentially of having an individual build it is that they've assumed some of the risk essentially for creating this entity. So I think we're very happy, I think, right now with the partnership and I think in the way it's structured.
And as I said, they hired Crescent Management, which operates hotels all over the country. They're a very fine operation. They're doing a very good job.
My question is, this is a real source of income, and in the long run, probably it's better for Stony Brook to acquire it or have something in the agreement.
I think the issue though would be, that's a very good point, but I think the issue would be the person who built it, took a financial risk essentially to build it. And I think they would like to see some of the benefits potentially for revenue from that. And I don't think we had the capacity as the university to take the financial risk to build it on our own. So we really did need a partner essentially to build it.
Right, it's not a core mission, function of the university, and So we need to make sure it gets done right, but then maybe down the road, as the good doctor suggested, we look at that. But very exciting, and just another tremendous asset for the university. And, you know, it's great. And for the community.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Barbara, I just have one question. Does Hilton take the price that it's going to charge per room on a geographic location? Or
Yes.
is this a set price that they have?
It's called bar, it's the best rate available. So they have set their bar, and then depending on how many nights you're gonna take the hotel, how many people you're gonna have at the hotel, they discount it from there. And as I said, the university itself gets over a 10% discount from that best available rate.
So being a member of the university or student or a university facility or
You
you
will
come
get
in
that
for an
discount.
end of it?
That's right.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
Congratulations, I'm so happy to see this finally done, because over the years, we know what a horror show, the community, and oh, it's gonna be an eyesore. And in reality, when I drove by today doing 60, which is what I said, how people, you know, you really, it just blends right in so beautifully. I mean, everybody was complaining, it's gonna be an eyesore, it's gonna be horrible, and it looks like it's been there forever already. So I want to congratulate you on that, but ask you, have you heard anything from the community doing 50 and 60 miles an hour past it, that it was?
Well, number one, you should be doing 60.
Sorry.
It's not a fairness question, but I'm so glad you asked it. Frankly, people that opposed the building of
Yes,
the hotel, that location initially,
Yes.
have come up to me and said that we've kept our promise and that it's not visible from Nichols Road.
Exactly.
And it's
That's
also
great.
not that visible from any other parts of the campus,
No, right.
especially when the trees are in leaf. But we've kept our promise about the buffer. There'll be additional landscaping. When you were doing 60, you probably didn't see, but we have a utility corridor that we
Yeah.
needed to cut down a few trees to bring in the utilities.
To bring in the
But we'll be
utilities.
planting to hide
You'll
that
be
as well.
revegetating good, because I know it was a constant, you know, drumbeat that it's horrible and what's the university doing, and we're always so conscious of our impact on the community, and we're always trying to do such a good job at trying not to offend anybody and be part of the community, that I want to commend you. I mean, it looks great. Now that the leaves are off the trees, it really, you can hardly see it. It looks like it's been there forever. So
Thank you for
congratulations on finally finishing that, because I know it's been a long haul.
And Counselor, you can cross one off your list.
Almost.
Almost, okay. Being
But it's-
premature
I mean, it's
here.
been- I know, I'm saying, I know from history, it's been like, wah, wah, forever, so it was
Well, I'm glad you
wonderful
brought
to
that
see
up.
it.
That's one of the reasons I said it at the outset, that we pulled it to face humanities and brought it in as much as we could to keep that buffer.
It's
And that's
great.
made all the difference.
Now, when you build that second edition, hopefully, because you're probably gonna need it, I think it is a tremendous asset. And it brings Stony Brook again another notch up in its standing nationally and worldwide, because now you can attract people that can stay in a quality place on campus, whether it's visiting professors or doctors. It is, I am
It's
so,
another aspect
so-
you have control over.
Oh my God, it is so wonderful. Like I said, I know the years that it's been, and I congratulate you because it looks wonderful, and it goes to show that things can be done properly.
You sure?
Driving by, but all of you that fought that fight, thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next on the agenda, under some new business, proposed revisions of the university's student conduct code. Dr. Peter Basian, Vice President of Student Affairs, and Maddie Panett, Director of the University's Community Standards. Peter?
No picture. Lots of paper. So this is an unusual mid-year revision to the rules, driven in some greater degree by our need to be able to provide some inclusion of Title IX language. We on an ongoing journey to try and reduce the size of the rules and clarify them. So in your documents in front of you, you will find wording revisions and the removal of the residential contract, which is part of the residential program, so it was a duplicate. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Maddie to do the detail.
So you do have your packets in front of you. I don't want to repeat myself. So the rules are established for our professional students, for our undergraduates and graduate students to follow. After putting some theory to practice this year with Title IX changes and the Dear Colleague letter from last year. We were able to discuss some issues with students, and in order to clarify some of the issues brought up in the Dear Colleague letter, we were able to add an appendix to the conduct code related to Title IX issues. So we were able to extract some language from the conduct code into the appendix to make it easier for students to follow through on any cases regarding sexual assault, sexual harassment, or sexual violence. So it's easier for them to work through the conduct code and to find the information that they needed. In front of you, you do have about 17 pages of changes. You don't have to go through all the 17 pages. 7 of those pages, as Peter said, are related to residence halls elimination. We eliminated about 7 pages in the conduct code related to the residence hall and residence halls policies, because they are already in another document on campus, and the rules apply to all students on campus, not only to students in the residence halls. So we did eliminate that, and that's why your package is so thick. Some of the other changes that we've made to the conduct code include just changes in words to clarify information for the students. We've repositioned some areas and some paragraphs so that it's easier for students to read the code. And we've also eliminated certain things from the code which we have historically had issues with. For example, the issues of propping doors in the residence halls and on campus. That was something that was done, I guess, prior to me returning back to Stony Brook. And in a discussion with Peter, we realized that the students are really adhering to that, and education has really educated students not to prop doors because of the injury and the safety issues that it causes for our community. So if you do have any questions regarding the conduct code, I can ask you any questions that you may have. And I would like to thank Harris for being on our committee, and for Anna for providing a representative for our committee for the undergraduate students. Thank you very much.
Good. Thank you, Maddie. Actually, I'd like to ask Susan and or Harris, any additional comments before the other council members? You guys okay with all the proposed changes, or?
From my point of view, everything looks great. But I just was wondering about with regards to, I remember we spoke about students in leadership positions and how.
Yes. As we went through the conduct code, and remembering that we did have the hurricane between, we do have pending changes, and we are going to reconvene as soon as the semester starts to bring up some of those changes. And I think we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, but I needed to send the information into this meeting earlier. So we will be reconvening to talk about some of those pending changes.
Just one comment. First of all, I'd like to thank you for being really inclusive in this process. Can you clarify a little bit item 11, where you are adding this definition for longer-term guests or live-in guests? What's the motivation behind that?
Yes, and Peter, if you wanted to chime in. We've been having some issues trying to categorize some of our students, or students that are on campus. We do have students that live as spouses or children that live with our students in the residence halls. And we didn't have a specific place in the conduct code that actually categorized those specific students or those specific people. And what we wanted to do was bring that definition into the conduct code to say we do have spouses and children that live here, and if they do violate the student conduct code, then their host, which is the student, would be responsible for their actions.
Okay, I see. So there's probably in the residence hall code of conduct, there is references, or there is going to be references to this terminology.
Yes, you don't have the entire conduct code in front of you, but yes, there is reference to that in the terms of occupancy.
Okay, I see.
You know, and good point, Harris. And you know, sometimes you might think, oh, okay, student conduct code. This is like, you know, we don't have to pay too much attention to this. It's critically important. Nothing can really set back, say, progress being made at a university, then some type of incident that maybe isn't properly addressed, that or in a code. You know, look at the tragedy that happened up at Stony Brook earlier this year, or was it late last year? And, you know, involving somebody who shouldn't have been in the dorms but was. And so very important that, you know, we do regularly review and update this and make sure that we're addressing things that might not have been properly addressed in the future. So, you know, Maddie, thanks for, you know, taking care of this. Mayor?
Yes, I just had a question, Maddie, and part of it's been cleared already. Okay. But the different terminology in being a dormitory in a residential apartment, could you kind of bring those two apart and tell me the difference? And they both located on this campus.
We usually don't use the word dormitory. We use the word residence halls.
Okay.
So for the people on the outside, they use the words dormitory. Residence halls are places where students learn, they sleep, they learn, and and they share in activities. Dormitories were old terms, I guess.
Old terms, great, all right.
For students who just left.
I didn't see it, I just wondered because you kept saying residential.
Yes.
It's the first time I hear that you can bring residential guests within.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if the agreement, when you're renting, in other words, you're paying for your space, does it include an increase if there's another person occupying the building? Do they get the same privileges as the student going to the cafeterias? And the children, how is that really handled? There are other students that are trying to be living together like that.
I used to work in the residence halls for a few years. I wanted to let you know that residential guests we only allow residential guests in the apartments, mostly for our graduate students and for our family housing on campus. And our professional staff members that live in the residence halls. And that's it. We don't allow undergraduate students, if they're not in family housing, to have these types of long-term guests. We do have overnight guests and a specific amount of time that students can have a guest in their rooms, but not anything extra.
So in other words, the spouse and the children have the same privileges. They're there for the year if it's a graduate program and they're living in an apartment.
Most of them do. There are some guidelines. Like and I think Peter could talk a little bit more about the children in the residence halls. I'm not too familiar with them.
It's just incredible that this is.
Well, it's an aspect we don't think about.
It's an amazing thing that they can, you know, live together because they don't have to live in two separate places, which is economically feasible.
Right, and those children do attend, our daycare facilities, and they also attend some of the schools in the area as well.
So they become really residents. And is the price for the rental the same if you have a family or?
No, there's something like 22 different rates across the campus depending on the location, family, apartment.
Yeah.
So it's and it's a process that's reviewed every year, so that each year we go through a rate review that will start in January through March, where we go through this with representatives of the students' body.
That's interesting. Thank you.
Jim,
That's what I wanted to know.
Comment? Nothing about your guest when you were in college.
No, I was saying to John, actually, I lived in, when I was a grad student in Columbia, we had a family apartment on 122nd Street, and it was my wife and baby daughter, and we paid $125 a month. I'm very old.
Those weren't your wild
hardly. I was going to underline something you said, and then I had a question. It's incredibly important that we codify this kind of thing, because then you have a basis. And I just saw we have to approve of this. And I also heard from Anna's comment, there were changes being made. Do you expect us to do that today, or is this the final version?
They were circulated to us a week ago. I know I read them and reviewed them.
I'm reading them for the first time.
Okay. I'm prepared to move on today. Do we need to approve them today? Is it preferable?
I think what Anna was saying was there have been some things discussed that may want to be changed at a future time. But I think, with my impression, and Anna can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they were material to not approving this particular
Correct.
document. Is that
Right.
fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah, well, as I say, I didn't do my homework as Kevin did, but I went through it very quickly now, and I heard some, for example, instead of handled, heard by, that makes sense. But you added cause fear as a definition. I mean, that sounds not ambiguous exactly, but
Vague.
vague, yeah.
We actually consulted with our experts on campus, and Dr. Smita Das from our University Counseling Center requested that we add that word into the stalking.
I can understand the reason for it, but I'm just thinking, if someone were making an accusation that someone else caused fear, it would be somewhat, I would think, difficult, because it is vague and kind of ambiguous. How do you handle the fear?
I mean, you know.
Well, you had Susan's behind smiling. We've had a series,
I'm not causing any fear, am I?
no, we've had a series of
Quite a bit.
documents from the federal government of the civil rights that were not totally clear to us. And you will see over the next couple of years that some of these pieces will change, but we've got to mirror in some ways what the Office of Civil Rights is providing.
See, that, what was, well, you have to mirror.
Mirror.
Okay, yeah.
So we are straining hard to try and make these documents as clear as possible, but sometimes we are really very much constrained in what our
Well,
language
for
is.
exactly the reason that Kevin and I mentioned, that they form your foundation, and so
Yeah,
that's why you
absolutely.
can't have them that vague.
Yeah, and OCR offers you an advisory letter, but they're the ones that are going to do the audit, so is it advisory or is it?
So you're saying, in effect, you may have to include
Yeah.
that language.
To comply with those regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really what we, and it's the document is a request to change the rules at this point, do these modifications. And we will be back in May with another set of revisions, some pieces that Anna just talked about.
So then, Jim, are you okay if we move on?
Yes.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the
So
revisions
moved.
by Jim, seconded by Diana. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
But just to say that we'll be anxious to hear you come back, or
Come back.
eager, not anxious.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
after a semester with these revisions, they'll come back at the end of May. There's no other formal items on the agenda, and before Sam and I wish everybody happy holidays. Is there any other business that anybody wants to raise? Doc?
Ken, just wanted to compliment you on the great job you did. And, my only question is, when I saw one of your slides, I noticed that global medicine is mostly South Africa and East Africa. Is there a reason why Stony Brook doesn't look into other alternatives like West African countries?
It's been my experience and most of the other people who've looked at global medicine programs that if you're going to be successful, you really need to have a pre-existing connection. And trust needs to be built up so it's not viewed as medical tourism, as just sort of opportunism of landing, doing, getting a vacation and then leaving. And these, for various traditional reasons, were the places where there has been some trust built. And to the extent that there are great opportunities for experiences in our students, we need to develop those trusting relationships over the next couple of years.
Thank you. Just a show of hands, anybody interested in a quick 10-15 minute tour of this new facility, Frank? All right, so there'll be at least a few of us.
Yeah.
Jay Sasser is here. He's going to take us on the tour. So I'm going to join you as well. With that, no other business. On behalf of Sam and myself, for those currently celebrating the Hanukkah season, wish you a happy Hanukkah, and everybody else is celebrating Christmas, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll see you on Monday, February 4th, not Tuesday, February 4th. With that, motion to adjourn by Frank Trotta, seconded by John Corrado. All in favor, of course.
Wait, I want to extend this another 15 minutes.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
You want to bring this down?
Yeah, just